Moonlight. Two characters on a beach, bathed in a soft blue hue. It looks like Barry Jenkins hired the moon itself to do the lighting. It's gorgeous, cinematic, and award-winning. You'd think this shot cost a fortune, but no. The whole film was made from less than the catering budget of Avengers, with just $4 million. Now jump to Justice League. Superman shows up with that infamous CGI upper lip, the digital shave that cost millions, and yet it looks like someone tried to erase his mustache using Microsoft Paint at 3 a.m. Here's the kicker. More money, more crew, more computers doesn't automatically mean better movies. Sometimes it means you've paid a small arm and a leg to make Henry Cavill look like he has a Snapchat filter on. So if billion-dollar studios can trip over their own shoelaces, your scrappy indie project has a fighting chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
The trick is to where the money actually goes and how to stop your film from collapsing halfway through the production. Before we dive into indie budgets, here's a shocker. Even billion-dollar blockbusters can officially lose money. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix made nearly $1 billion worldwide. Yet on paper, it showed a $167 million deficit. And it's not alone. Bohemian Rhapsody, Forrest Gump, and even Return of the Jedi all pulled the same disappearing profits trick. Stick around till the end of the video to find out how exactly Hollywood makes money vanish on paper.
How'd you do it, Scott? Do what?
As an indie filmmaker, you don't have the luxury of having those tricks at your disposal. For you, every dollar is real. And in today's video, we're going to explain how you can make every cent count. Today, we're going to be talking about the different indie budgets, from the $250,000 micro indie all the way to the $500 million budgets. Micro indie, $250,000. If you're an aspiring filmmaker, let's start where you probably are, the micro indie filmmaker, with just $250,000. It seems like a fortune, but before you burn a hole through your wallet, you might want to sit down and listen to this. You have to break down your budget. First up, we have above-the-line costs. Above the line, $40K. Above the line means your director, writer, producers, and cast. But here's the thing, if you're directing and producing, you're not paying yourself. That's sweat equity. You might pay your writer a small stipend or defer payments until after distribution. Your cast? Maybe a few thousand each, or deferred contracts where they get paid only if the film sells. This is where favors, passion projects, and friends stepping in make the difference. Then we have crew costs. Crew costs, $70K. This is where most of your money disappears. Even at indie rates, a 20-person crew over 20 days adds up fast. Let's do the maths. Say you pay $150 per day per crew member. Multiply that by 20 crew members, 20 shooting days, that's $60,000 right there. And that's before overtime, meals, or transport. Crew is the backbone of your production, and cutting corners here can sink your film. Pay fairly, keep the team lean, and remember, every extra day of shooting is thousands more. Next up, we have gear. Equipment. Cameras, lenses, lighting, grip, and electric. This is where the numbers start climbing really fast. Renting a cinema camera like a Red or an ARRI can burn through $2,000 to $3,000 per week. And that's before you add your lighting kits, dollies, and audio gear. Stack it all together and suddenly you're staring at $35K in equipment costs. Here's the trap. Filmmakers love shiny toys. It's easy to obsess over which camera body to rent, but the truth is simple. Don't blow your budget on chasing the fanciest rig. Prioritize lenses and sound gear. A great story with clean audio will always beat a bad story on the most expensive camera. So once you've locked down your gear, the cameras, lenses, lights, and sound equipment, you might think you're ready to roll. But all that equipment has to go somewhere, and that's where locations come in. Because the moment you step outside your living room, every place you shoot becomes another line item on your budget. Permits, rentals, travel, hotels, and suddenly, the world itself has a price tag. Locations. The smartest indie filmmakers pick one or two strong locations and build the story around them. Every new location means new costs, new logistics, and new headaches. Think about it. Every time you move your crew, you're paying for transport, setup, permits, and meals. That's why location strategy is one of the most powerful ways to control your budget. Here are a few things you can consider when you're allocating a portion of your budget for this. Limit the number of locations. One or two strong locations can carry an entire film. Think of Clerks, one convenience store, or Paranormal Activity, one house. By anchoring your story in a single space, you save thousands in permits, rentals, and travel. Leverage free or low-cost spaces. Apartments, offices, or homes you already have access to can double as sets. Friends and family spaces are gold. Just make sure you get written permission and insurance coverage. Negotiate with businesses. Restaurants, bars, or shops may let you shoot during off hours in exchange for credit or promotion. Sometimes offering a small fee or even free advertising can secure a location far cheaper than a permit. Shoot guerrilla style, carefully. Some filmmakers shoot without permits in public spaces. It's risky, but if you keep your crew small and the equipment minimal, you can sometimes get away with it. Just know the legal risks and be prepared to move fast. For legal reasons, this is a joke. Cluster your locations. If you absolutely need multiple spots, choose ones close together. Shooting in the same neighborhood cuts down on transport, parking, and wasted time. Design your script around what you can afford. Instead of writing a scene in a fancy hotel you can't afford, set it in a friend's living room. Indie filmmaking is about adapting your story to the resources you have and funding inspiration in the most basic of places. If you have a little bit more money, let's say around $1 million, you may not need to cut corners this tightly. Now let's discuss what to do if you have it. Indie, $1 million. At the $1 million level, the game changes. Suddenly, actors matter. A recognizable face isn't just a casting choice, it's a line item that can swallow $50 to $70K in a few weeks. Above-the-line costs climb to around $200,000, and the presence of an even more mid-tier actor can shape your festival run or your distribution deal. Money at this scale starts behaving differently because prestige and visibility become a part of the budget itself. Crew costs expand too. 30 days with a 30-person crew at union rates means a massive amount, but once you add overtime, meals, and transport, you're already almost halfway through your budget. Your daily burn rate hovers around $40,000. At this scale, time itself becomes money, so just for one extra day of shooting, you'll be spending tens of thousands. Equipment grows bigger as well. Multiple cameras, cranes, drones, larger lighting rigs. Weekly rentals stack up to 10 to 15K, and expandables push the total to 120K. Gear envy kicks in here. The temptation to rent toys you don't need. At this tier, every bit of equipment is a drain unless it's justified by a shot list. Location permits, hotels, and travel costs can also cost you around 1 to 2K per day. Shooting in several cities multiplies cost fast. Smart Productions clusters their locations in a specific area, turning neighborhoods into worlds. Moonlight did this in Miami, keeping the story grounded while cutting down on travel and hotel costs. And then there's the invisible layer of legal insurance and miscellaneous spending that are bound to come your way. The liability coverage, completion bonds, guild compliance, catering, contingency funds. Around 150K disappears into this category. It's not glamorous, but it's the safety net that keeps the film alive when chaos hits. In reality, a $1 million indie feels huge, but once you break it down, the margins are actually razor thin, with above the line taking up 200K, your crew burning up 300K, and your equipment swallowing another 120K. Locations will drain you around 80K, and if you set aside 150K for miscellaneous, suddenly you're at zero. At this scale, money behaves like gravity, pulling on every decision, every extra day, and every new location. $20 million. Now we move on to the big leagues. Your studio indie movie with a budget of $20 million. At this level, you're still technically independent, but the scale, the crew size, and the expectations are closer to Hollywood than to micro-budget filmmaking. This is where films like Ex Machina, Lady Bird, or Manchester by the Sea live. They're indie in spirit, but their budgets allow them to compete head-to-head with studio releases. Now, money behaves differently. Above-the-line prestige eats millions before you've shot a single frame, and the crew expands into dozens of unionized professionals. So the real shift isn't just the numbers, it's pace. The momentum is much slower. A costume change isn't just a change in clothes, it's approvals, fittings, scheduling, and ripple effects on set design and lighting. Adding one more shoot doesn't just mean overtime, it means renegotiating contracts, extending rentals, and recalculating catering for 1,000 people. Creativity starts to share space with logistics. Directors spend as much time in meetings as they do behind the camera. Producers have to juggle compliance, guild rules, and insurance. Department heads become managers of managers. The film now begins to feel less like an art project and more like running a company, so every choice has a downstream effect that will multiply across the production. The paradox of the $20 million indie is that you have the resources to compete with studios, but the very scale that empowers you also slows you down. The budget buys prestige and visibility, but it also introduces friction, and the difference between success and collapse isn't just about how you spend, it's how well you navigate the gravity of scale. $500 million production. At the $500 million scale, filmmaking enters an entirely different universe. Individual scenes can rival the budgets of entire independent productions. A single action sequence could cost you around $50 million. Reshoots can balloon into the equivalent of a $100 million movie, and the spending will not stop when the cameras stop rolling. Marketing and global distribution add hundreds of millions more. Worldwide campaigns, merchandise tie-ins, premieres in multiple countries. The break-even point for a $500 million film can be astronomical. Sometimes a movie has to gross over $1 billion just to claw its way into profit. Let's take a closer look at one of the most successful entries in the Harry Potter franchise, Order of the Phoenix. Released in 2007, it earned nearly $500 million in defined gross revenue, a whopping $474 million to be exact. The film pulled in massive revenue, with foreign markets alone contributing over $298 million. But after distribution fees, overhead, and expenses, the defined proceeds dropped dramatically. The final reported deficit? $167 million. That's right, let's pick our jaws off the floor because on paper, Order of the Phoenix actually lost money. So how does a film that made nearly $500 million end up with a reported deficit? Welcome to Hollywood accounting. Studios deduct internal fees, inflate costs, and structure contracts to minimize payouts. Even a global hit like Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix can be made to look unprofitable. For indie creators, this is a cautionary tale, because if back-end deals are based on net profits, you might never see a dime, even if your film is a massive box office success. At this level, every decision you make is pretty much magnified. A simple change in casting can ripple through to contracts, schedules, and marketing campaigns. While the $500 million production certainly dazzles audiences, behind the scenes, it's way less about the art and way more about managing. A-list salaries, massive crews, and global-level marketing, and inevitable waste all add up to a balancing act so delicate, so precarious, that only a handful of movies in history have truly ever cleared it. From the $250,000 micro-indie to the $500 million blockbuster film, the lessons we learned are all the same. Filmmaking is ultimately a balancing act between your vision and the resources you have to fulfill that vision. At the indie level, every dollar counts, and just one extra day of shooting can really sink in your budget. At the studio level, millions of dollars vanish into salaries, stunts, locations, and marketing. Entire indie films could be made for the single cost of a reshoot. But here's the truth, money does not guarantee greatness. Clerks was shot in one convenience store. Moonlight, which went on to win the Oscars, literally clustered its locations in Miami neighborhoods. Paranormal Activity used one single house for the movie. Each of these movies proved that creativity and discipline matter more than anything else. Always remember, as we talked about at the start of this video, even billion-dollar blockbusters can collapse under their own weight if the story's not there. So whether you're working with $250,000, $20 million, or even $500 million, the challenge is the same. Tell a story worth telling. Always remember, whether you spend $500 million or $500,000, in the end, only your story will survive.